Live from the News Center of National Communication Network, this is PH Daily News, Vanguard of Radical Change.
One vision.
One community.
One goal.
Good afternoon, Philippines.
Good afternoon, world.
This is PH Daily News, bringing you the top stories inside and outside of the country, surely with no bias.
For the headlines. Though the Middle East is top of source of remittance, it is also where countless Filipinos have been a victim of all sorts of abuse and exploitation. For the details of the news.
This is mainly due to the lack of proper legal protection for foreign workers, particularly low to semi-skilled, opaque judicial proceedings, prejudice, and abusive practices, such as confiscation of passport by employers, have collectively contributed to a system of exploitation against OFW.
The intensified sectarian conflict in the Middle East represents an added threat to the welfare of millions of OFWs in the region. Though low prices are good for the Philippines economy, it isn't necessarily a good thing for the OFWs. Countries like Saudi Arabia, which ran a budget deficit of around $100 billion last year, is deeply affected by declining oil prices. Along with countries like Bahrain, it needs oil prices to be almost twice their current level to balance its budget. According to the International Monetary Fund, the Gulf Cooperation Council, or GCC, countries which enjoyed a budget surplus of $600 billion half a decade ago are expected to run a $700 billion budget deficit by 2020. Due to lack of diversification, GCC economies are vulnerable to fluctuation in oil prices, and with post sanctions, Iran expected to flood the market with boosted oil production. The petrostates are confronting the prospect of long-term oil glut.
For PH Daily News, this is Ella.
Singapore and Philippines are taking steps to boost economic cooperation. For the details, here is Angelo.
Singapore and Philippines are taking steps to boost economic cooperation, with local companies encouraged to venture beyond its capital. Manila cities such as Davao, Cebu are among prospective places they urged to consider by International Enterprise Singapore, the agency that promotes international trade and partners Singapore companies in going global.
International Enterprise Singapore is also devoting more resources to step up its presence in the Philippines next year. President Tony Tan Keng Yam said he was speaking at a banquet in the Istana in honor of Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte, who is on a 2-day state visit to Singapore. Singapore companies can contribute to the Philippine development of quality infrastructure, urban planning, and information and communication technology service. A foreign ministry statement said both leaders also agreed that there was room to further broaden and deepen ties, including strengthening security cooperation. It also said Mr. Duterte met Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong and both agree ASEAN should work together to deal with transboundary challenges such as human and drug trafficking and terrorism.
For PH Daily News, this is Angelo Vidamo reporting.
Philippines-Japan, closer than brothers. Live from Japan, here is Ena Marie for the details.
Manila high-level engagement between Japanese and Filipino officials over the past 2 years signaled the expanded and deeper bilateral relations of the two nations, a friendship that the Philippine Embassy in Japan expects to further nourish.
No less than President Rodrigo R. Duterte regarded Tokyo as Manila's friend, which is closer than a brother. This was more evident when Prime Minister Shinzo Abe visited Davao City in January 2017, breaking protocol formalities between him and Chief Executive as they shared traditional Filipino food. The two leaders also took a photo souvenir of them touring inside Duterte's residence, including one inside his bedroom with folded mosquito net still hanging on the bedposts. This was followed by Duterte's visit to Japan in October 2017, where the landmark Philippines-Japan joint statement on bilateral cooperation for the next 5 years was read.
Live from Japan, this is PEREY reporting.
Employment ban on overseas Filipino workers. For the details,
Kuwait slams the Philippines' deployment ban on overseas Filipino workers in the Gulf nation. The ban was triggered by reporters of OFW suffering abuse and exploitation.
Kuwait Foreign Ministry, Sheikh Sabah Khalid Al Sabah, quote, "This escalation will not serve the relationship between Kuwait and the Philippines." Sheikh Sabah Khalid Al Sabah said, "We condemn the statements of the Philippine President, especially since we are in contact with the Philippines at the highest level to fully explain the states of the Filipino workforce in Kuwait." President Rodrigo Duterte brandished photos to show a Filipina maid found in a freezer saying she has been roasted like a pig. President Rodrigo Duterte, quote, "Is there something wrong in your culture? Is there something wrong with your values?"
South Korea-Philippines bilateral summit gets underway at Seoul's presidential Blue House. South Korean President Moon Jae-in is hosting the visiting President of the Philippines, Rodrigo Duterte, at the presidential Blue House as we speak. This is Mr. Duterte's first visit to South Korea as President. Our Chief Blue House correspondent, Ms. Kathleen Sango, is live on the line for us.
Alan, you're absolutely right. This Philippines President's first visit to this country, although when it will be Presidents Moon and Duterte's second bilateral summit after their first back in November last year on the sideline of ASEAN Summit in Manila. President Duterte arrived here at South Korea's staff office rudely 10 minutes ago with his entourage. And really, we are all sort of keen on finding out what this president with his unique sense of fashion style, renowned for his signature leather jacket. Of course, that's exactly what he wore as he landed at Incheon International yesterday, sporting all black, will be wearing to South Korea's presidential office.
So we're expecting the two leaders to go ahead with their summit talks from here on, right?
Yes, the two leaders during their bilateral summit are expected to discuss various issues of mutual concern, including the latest developments on the Korean Peninsula ahead of the North Korea-US denuclearization summit next week, as well as strengthening ties in defense, trade, and people-to-people exchange. Now, this as the near new landmark in diplomatic relations that dates back to 1949, so next year will be mark 70 years of diplomatic ties between Seoul and Manila. Ambition natin 2040 is President Duterte's drive to make the Philippines become a mid to high income nation by year 2040 by creating a trustworthy, poverty-free middle class society. Also discussed will be how to ensure the internal safety and security of the Philippine nationals in South Korea and vice versa. Presidents Moon and Duterte will then hold a joint media conference which will be followed by a dinner banquet and cultural performances hosted the South Korean President.
Thank you, Ms. Kathleen. Hi everyone! We're here for
relations with Middle Eastern countries, oil dependence, Muslim separatism, and labor conditions for Filipino contract workers in Saudi Arabia and the Persian Gulf states. The Philippines record reasonably priced oil, and fluctuations in world oil prices causes serious problems for the Philippines in politically incendiary strikes by the drivers of jeepneys, jeeps, converted to carry passengers, which were a vital form of public transportation in Manila. For this reason, the Philippine government was very conscious of the needs to maintain amicable relations with Middle Eastern oil producers and of the effect that its treatment of the Muslim minority could have on those relations. Furthermore, although Maro National Liberation Force leader Noor Misauri lived and worked in Libya and Saudi Arabia, Arab leaders were reticent in their support for Misauri. In addition, of January 1991, there were an estimated 495,300 Filipinos working in the Middle East, including 390,000 in Saudi Arabia, 2,000 in the Kuwait, and 50 in Iraq. Those workers were a major source of Philippine hard currency earnings, but their presence also made the Philippines vulnerable to volatile changes in Middle Eastern politics.
In order to strengthen the bilateral relations and military cooperation between Indonesia and Philippines, the Philippine Air Force delegation led by Brig Gen Samuel G. Gotico as part of the activities of Senior Officers Exchange Visit Program conducted a visit by Masabsu, Sri Lanka, Jakarta.
The visit of the Philippine Air Force delegation was received by the head of the Air Force Commander and Security Services, Kadispam Sanu, or Marsmati NI Andy Custoro in Mabsu. In his remarks to the Philippine Air Force delegation, Kadispam Sanu said that the Air Force welcomed the visit of senior Philippine Air Force officer as means to strengthen the cooperation that had been well established so far. Besides that, this visit can also be used to exchange information between officers and build constructive relationship in order to face increasingly complex challenges in the future, said Kadispam Sanu. Meanwhile, Brig Gen Samuel G. Gotico, as the leader of the group, expressed his gratitude to the Indonesian Air Force for giving the opportunity to make a visit. According to him, the visit is an activity that must be continuously fostered and maintained in order to create an understanding and mutually beneficial cooperative relation between the two countries.
Philippines based its case on a claim to territories that were part of former Sultanate of Sulu, a 19th century entity whose territory straddled the present maritime territory between Malaysia and Philippines.
In 1991, one descendant of the Sultan, a Filipino citizen, still received a stipend stemming from cession of the Sultanate to a British company. Philippine presidents have revived this claim occasionally. It was revealed in 1968 that Marcos was training a team of saboteurs on Corregidor for infiltration into Sabah. Marcos later decided to drop the claim, but the aggrieved Malaysian insisted on such an explicit, humiliating public renunciation that no Philippine president could meet their condition. The Philippine Constitution, by not mentioning Sabah, seems to have dropped the claim. Aquino rushed a bill to Congress in November 1987 to renounce the claim once and for all, hoping to get the issue out of the way before Malaysia's Prime Minister Mahathir bin Mohamad arrived for the ASEAN Summit in December, but the Congress did not act.
For PH Daily News, this is Fatima ABELIDA reporting.
Filipino teacher may soon find more opportunities to receive Mandarin language training as Philippine Education Secretary Leonor Briones' recent visit to Beijing saw the Philippines and China agreed to expand its language training programs. Briones said on Tuesday, May 7, the discussion between the two countries led to action plans and agreements that involved the educator sector, and Education Secretary had joined President Rodrigo Duterte to visit China in April 2019 for the Belt and Road Forum. The Department of Education said it wants additional training to improve the teaching-learning process of Filipino students taking Chinese Mandarin as an elective subject under school special programs in foreign language. For PH Daily News, this is Kathleen Sango reporting.
And those were top stories for this hour.
This is PH Daily News Vanguard of Radical Change. This has been your unbiased and truth reporters, JHEMAICO
And Alan, saying we do not just secure freedom.
We defend what people deserve.